Hi, I'm Sunny Bottoms, and this is Between Two Emmys. Today, my guest is a very special guest. He's the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Ford Baldwin. You might say the GOAT of weed science. Thank you so much for taking time to stand out here with me and let me badger you for a few minutes.
My pleasure. This is always fun.
Okay. Well, Dr. Baldwin, I'm just going to start off with something easy. If you could,
I need to eat.
we'll build up.
Yeah.
If you could be any weed, what weed would you be?
Probably barnyard grass. If I was going to be a weed and rice, it seems to be a pretty successful survivor, and that's what I'm trying to do at my age, is survive.
There you go. All right. Prolific and survivor and all right. Well, I worked for you one summer, and that had to be the highlight of your career.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I learned a lot of new words and phrases when I worked for you. One of my favorites I use periodically is Jill flirted.
Yeah.
As in the tractor just Jill flirted.
It just Jill flirted.
But one of the things you used to say is the weeds are talking, are we listening? Now, are you still hearing voices or what did you mean by that?
Well, what I meant by that is look at the weeds. I mean, what are they doing now compared to what they might have been doing a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago if you were in it for the long haul, and whether it be species shifts or whether it be resistance, or the same programs that we had been successful with, where we start not being so successful with them, then the weeds are telling us we better change. And so I guess that's why I coined that phrase. Just said, look around, folks. We're not getting any new chemistry. I mean, our last herbicide mode of action came in the 80s. So we're just having to patch together programs, and the other phrase I've used a lot that goes along with that is, we got to get smarter than a weed that doesn't have a brain. And you would think we'd be able to do that, but sometimes we haven't been so successful.
They're outsmarting us. It really seems
not
like
been so successful.
That's exactly right. Well, you mentioned the history. Can you talk about just, this is kind of a general philosophy, but like old rice weed control programs versus today? I mean, I guess more of a philosophy aspect of that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I went to work in 1974, and at that time, weed control in rice was very easy. I mean, basically the philosophy was stam it every Monday morning until there's nothing out there but rice.
Right.
And, maybe a little 2,4-D or something at mid-season for morning glories on the levees, that kind of thing. And weed control in rice was very easy. And then the philosophy kind of became, stam it, damn it, and or dram it. But then command came along, and kind of that was sort of proved me wrong on about everything I thought I knew about what would be successful as a rice herbicide, but it turned out to be a godsend. And
so we shifted from more repose to
as weeds
pre.
were becoming resistant to propanil, then we did shift more to a pre and command. Actually, there for several years. I mean, one treatment of command for grass control, weed control got pretty easy again. Broadleaf weed control's always been easy, but then as the weeds have gotten tougher and we've had species shifts to get more weeds in, the annual sedges, for example, different things like that, then it's become much more of a program approach and much more of I think a residual multiple mode of action program approach now compared to then. The other thing about now is it's gotten more complicated in that we tend to plant soybeans the same time we do rice. I mean, corn's come into the picture. We've got 3 different technologies in rice with the conventional.
Adds a lot of layers.
And it adds a lot of layers that all of a sudden you have to try to work around getting herbicides out, and that's complicated things a lot.
Well, I haven't really thought about it till you started talking about that, but you came along, started working in the 70s. I started working with my career, as far as that goes, in the 90s, although we had raised rice the whole life. And I was taught, I guess I came up in the era where it was pre-emerge herbicides were like the thing. So, our whole thing was weed competition. If you can keep it from coming up, that's the best thing you can do. But then now we have these, like you said, these whole other groups of herbicide-resistant traits, and it's really changed the landscape.
It is. It's changed the landscape, and it's complicated things. I mean, it's a lot of my phone calls come back on recommendations with just farmers simply saying, I can't get that, excuse me, I can't get that put out. My pilot won't put it out. So all of a sudden you're, what's plan B or plan C or plan D?
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of fields now, we're essentially using every herbicide we have.
Yeah. And even pulling back some old ones.
Yeah,
I've had a lot of calls on
I don't
some
talk,
old Grandstand and Storm, and
I don't talk a lot about brands, but I have recommended more Basagran this year.
I've had a lot of Basagran
than
calls.
in the last 10 years. And you know, Basagran's a very dear herbicide to me because when I came to work in 1974, cucumber and soybean was a weed. That was the directives I was given, was get the cucumbers out of the soybeans on Highway 67. Now, I never knew what Highway 67 had to do with anything, but I knew I had Dick Oliver as a research counterpart, and I knew I had Basagran coming, and I thought I could do this. And all of a sudden, it kind of, different herbicides came along, it faded from the picture. But well, I tell you, with the annual sedges and rice now, and some weeds, I've had more dayflower calls this
I
year.
have too.
And-
I found
and-
I've really more than they've kind of been increasing, but this year's been insane.
There's
If it's the weather or what, or we're selecting
We could be.
for it, or
We could be. It's always been around.
Yeah.
But weeds just have a way of adapting, either through resistance or just simple species switch. I mean, we do too good a job controlling this one, and here comes another one.
Right.
We never thought about being a problem.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and I appreciate you letting me tease you a little bit, and I look forward to talking with you again.
Okay, we'll do it.